Greetings and salutations, everyone. I do hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost you a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload. Shall we? Today's first paranormal experience. I want to start out by telling you a few relevant details about myself. I'm a 23-year-old student. In my lifetime, I've had a few experiences that can be labeled as somewhat paranormal. But only 2 of these stand out from all the others. I'm a skeptic myself and wouldn't believe any of these things if I wouldn't have been the one who had experienced them. I regard myself as a man of science. I always try to find a logical explanation for everything, even if it means to prove myself wrong. I have no mental disorders, and I don't use, nor have I ever used, any drugs. I rarely drink alcohol, and I am healthy by all standards. If it makes a difference, I am an atheist. My first paranormal and perhaps the most frightening experience occurred when I was about 8 years old. I was with one of my friends, who is 1 year older than me. At the swimming hall, we saw this one strange kid walking near the pool. It appeared as if he had some sort of strange illness that made his body distorted. His skin color was extremely pale. He had no hair at all. He was unusually skinny, and his bones could be seen jutting underneath his skin in all unnatural fashion. Strangely enough, despite all of these things, his body was perfectly symmetrical. In a way, he reminded me of Count Orlok, a vampire in the old black and white movie, Nosferatu. The kid walked into the water and then just stood alone, motionless, in the middle of the pool. There weren't any other people near the particular pool. Me and my friend stood on the side of the pool, and the kid had his back turned toward us. Not even once had he turned towards us, so we assumed he wasn't aware of us. I jokingly whispered into my friend's ear that there was something really wrong with this guy. Then all of a sudden the kid turns towards us as if he heard every word. He had this mad, unnatural grin on his face, as if he was enjoying the situation. His eyes were as if that of a serpent, and we saw this long snake tongue coming out of his mouth. It must have been at least 4 inches long, red in color, extremely thin, and forked at the end. It jerked from side in an exact way you would see a snake's tongue move. Then he dived underneath the water's surface, swam extremely fast, so that we couldn't see him anymore. We were frightened and quickly ran away from the pool. We then tried to explain to other people that there was some sort of monster in the pool, but no one believed us. They thought that we were joking around. The strange-looking kid wasn't seen anywhere either, so there was absolutely nothing we could have proven. We never spoke about the incident until 10 years later. I had already started to wonder if it was some sort of crazy dream. Despite that, I could still remember the whole day, not just the incident. So I started to talk to my friend about that time we were at the swimming hall. He then asked me if I was talking about the time we had seen the snake kid. Not only did he confirm the story, but he could even recall some other details which I hadn't seen. We tried to think of a rational explanation, assuming that maybe the kid had some sort of rare genetic disease and that he decided to pull a strange trick on us. We even questioned 2 doctors if there was a medical condition matching our description. Guess what? There wasn't. Assuming the kid was disabled, then what was he doing in the pool? The eyes could be explained with contact lenses, but it's highly unlikely that anyone could swim with those. We tried to explain the snake tongue with a fake prank toy, but couldn't find anything like it either. Also, how was he able to swim so fast, and where did he eventually disappear to? It doesn't really make any sense. It's even more unbelievable that it happened in a public place. It's highly unlikely that we had hallucinated or imagined the whole thing, since at the time, we were truly frightened by the experience, and both of us had remembered the incident separately, even after so many years. I've even been able to confirm that on that day, all those years ago, I was trying to explain the exact same story to people, and that no one believed me. To this day, the snake kid remains a complete mystery to me and my friend. Was it a human being, a mutant, some sort of ghost, an alien being among us, an alien entity? We have no clue what it was, but we both saw it. The second paranormal experience happened when I least expected it. About 4 years ago, I was traveling to school early in the morning. I fell asleep on the train and woke up somewhat 15 minutes before reaching the destination. I looked out the window and saw the highway. Some cars and a truck drove by, nothing unusual. Then I saw a formation of 7 to 9 birds flying towards 2 o'clock, nothing unusual. Then I saw some sort of industrial area and a man walking out of a metal door. He was wearing a blue uniform, a yellow helmet, and a briefcase in his left hand. Turned my head away from the window and sat for a while, staring at the wall and ceiling. All of a sudden, I woke up again. I laughed that I had a strange dream within a dream. I then looked out the window of the train and saw the road with a few cars and the truck. It looked somewhat familiar. It was sort of like having deja vu, but not quite. It was like living the same moment again. I then looked up and saw a formation of 7 to 9 birds flying at 2 o'clock in the same exact way which I had seen in my dream. I quickly remembered that in about a minute there would be an industrial complex, and I started to wonder if I would see a man in a blue uniform walking out the door. I was extremely curious and my heart started racing out of excitement. When the train began passing the industrial area, I saw the building and a metal door I had seen in my dream. Imagine my expression when I saw a man in a blue uniform wearing a yellow helmet and carrying a briefcase in his left hand, walking out the door. I pretty much jumped up and said, "Holy crap!" I realized this may have been extreme coincidence, but it's still unbelievable. It was as if I had coincidentally traveled back in 5 to 8 minutes in time. I know it's impossible to prove, but it really happened. So yeah, there you go. These are the most incredible paranormal experiences I've had. Today's second paranormal experience. There's a lot of backstory with me and my paranormal experiences. I've been out at night and seen things I cannot explain. Fully cloudy night, but the whole sky flashes 4 different colors before returning to normal, with witnesses. Dreams of deceased people before their death occurs, communication in dreams with deceased, heard 3 knocks on my door at night, and other freaky stuff. But I'm getting off track. There's a lot of backstory with what I believe led to this appearance, but it's very long and hard to believe, so I'll leave it out, unless anyone is interested. Anyway, it was night. I was in high school, maybe sophomore or junior year. Myself, my brother, and 2 of our friends were outside sitting in the bed of his truck, talking about religion. I grew up Southern Baptist, but being in such a strict Bible-thumping area, I lost interest in organized religion altogether. I was mentioning something about the Bible. I don't remember what edgy teen crap I probably said. I started joking about it. And then suddenly I just turned my head to look at the brush about 5 feet away. That's when I saw this thing. I've never seen anything like it in my life, nor will I ever again, hopefully. Underneath that bush, this thing was crouched, looking like it was ready to pounce, like a cat mid-stalk. It was reptilian, with large eyes, no pupils, tusks or fangs, and a short nose. If it stood up, it'd maybe be 4 feet tall. It was only a fraction of a second that I saw it, and it vanished into thin air. There was nothing in that spot that my brain could have mistaken an object to be such a predator. I'm very analytical, so I've thought about this for years. My brain is really messing with me, but I have no explanation to this date. I still remember it with vivid detail, even now being 21. Needless to say, I said, "What the?" and ran inside, everyone looking around confused, out of their minds. They came inside and I told them what I saw. Needless to say, we stayed inside for the rest of the night. My mom brought sage to try to purify the house after I told her. My experiences with all the negative spirits following me stopped for a while after that, but soon returned. I believe that thing followed me until I was 18. When I met my now husband last night, I felt his presence. I had him over for the first time, and late at night I heard clawing in my walls in the house. 3 knocks on my front door. He knew about my experiences, and was shocked to see it firsthand. That was the most active it's been, and I think it knew how strong spiritually I guess my husband was. He told it to get away from my house, and it wasn't welcomed here anymore. That's when all the knocking began. After that night, I never felt it again. I haven't had any negative spirits bother me since. Also, to clarify, the experience did not push me back to Christianity. I believe that one's personal spirituality is enough to protect against evil spirits. Today's third paranormal experience. Okay, here it goes. I live in a house from the 1700s in a very historical European city. We've had hauntings from day one when we moved in, my husband and I. Nothing sinister, but a woman who had obviously died from a stroke and didn't realize she had passed on. Whenever she was close to you, you got instantly nauseous and dizzy, so I had to perform a cleansing to help her over the threshold. Both my husband and I are very sensitive to these kinds of things, and we do not mind family or good-natured spirits from beyond visiting us, such as my great-grandmother, who is a common visitor, noticeable by some hijinks she did when she was alive as well, or his mother, Pats the cat. However, for the last 2 months, we had no visitations at all, and it stopped after my husband saw or sensed a black dog. I at first didn't react, as we had previous pets appear in the corner of our eyes, but it later dawned on me. Neither of us had a black dog, only black cats. Now, to my concerns. This weekend is my great-grandmother's birthday, and usually a weekend of more activity from her. Nothing from her, however. However, the cat refuses to walk in certain areas of the house, and I've been increasingly seeing what I can only describe as a pitch-black wolfhound in the corner of my visions at night. We were awoken by the cat freaking out, and more lately, not the usual zoomies, but literally growling and arching his back at something unseen. 5 days ago, I woke up with a large bruise on my thigh that looked as if someone was biting me. No wounds, just a huge mouth-shaped bruise. I'm afraid we may have gotten something into our house that does not belong here. I have lit incense, made it more aggravated, and could hear growling throughout the evening and night. Decided to contact the local Catholic church, despite being Lutheran. I got a St. Michael's medallion from a priest. Guess I should listen to one commentary regarding St. Michael. Cleansed the house with sage and closed all the doors and windows with a line of rock salt. Got my first peaceful night of ages. However, I was cautioned that it may just be temporarily and require a priest to come back and bless the home. So the activity did die down for a few weeks following the last update. However, it seems it's not over. Last week, my neighbor had been visited by this same creature. I hadn't told her of our experiences, however, she told us. She had seen it late in the evening on September 25th. She chalked it up to being tired and emotionally exhausted after her pet bunny had died suddenly. Only 2 years, and she had others living for far longer. Well, either way, she went to bed since she had to work the day after, and when she bicycled to work the following morning, she got hit by a car. The driver swears it was swerving to avoid hitting a dog. Thankfully, she got away with a few bruised ribs and nothing life-threatening. I haven't said this previously, but I think I know why it's here. A few years ago, I put away a man when I found out he was molesting children. He was deeply involved in the occult, and I just found out he was released from prison a week or two before these events started. Anyway, it seems it's getting more and more aggressive. I also think it's only a matter of time before it can get into my household again. Today's fourth experience on the paranormal side. Without giving too much detail, I did a 4.5-year stint as a security contractor for a company which is pretty well known and well regarded in the industry. During the 2014 invasion of the Crimean Peninsula, after it was determined Russian contractors were being used to invade the peninsula, a certain worldwide military organization decided to be cheeky and send contractors of its own. And I, an 18-year-old, only a few months out of this company's boot camp, was sent along with a sizable force of other contractors. Our primary mission was to slow any progress the Russians made while evacuating towns and villages of pro-Ukrainian residents, who were susceptible to executions and other horrendous acts when their loyalty was discovered. Now, I only had 6 miserable weeks, and neither of these stories are my own, but the sources are very reliable, and I trust that they would not lie about such things. So the first one I'll tell is of Platoon 62. Platoon 62 comprised 2 squadrons of 12 men each and were solely tasked with evacuation duties. According to the 2 people who had told me what happened, P-62 had called in at approximately 14:45 hours, or 2:45 p.m., and notified command that they had encountered heavy incoming fire and that they'd be seeking an alternative route to get to their destination, and reported no casualties. At 14:52, they called in again and advised one truck had been hit by an explosive and that the vehicle was now immobile. They said they'd be dismounting and moving to the other vehicles, reporting that all 5 occupants had been injured and were able to move on their own. Multiple attempts to reach them failed after this. 2 hours go by, and then the last call from them came in saying they were all wounded, some dead, they needed a medevac. 60 additional contractors forming a QRF were sent to assist at the first sign of trouble at 14:45. And at approximately 1800, they had finally arrived, only to find all 24 dead in varying locations. So here's where the paranormal begins. The locals state that a firefight had in fact started around 14:45 and ended about an hour after, with the attackers making an aggressive push on 2 squads they had ambushed. The locals state they had gone out and checked on the contractors after the attackers had left and found several who were still alive, but life-saving attempts failed shortly after. Most had been hit by gunfire and shrapnel multiple times. Fearing the attacking forces would return, the locals left. The locals were adamant that they had checked all 24 and that they had all passed away before they had left. So, who called in saying they needed a medevac. Is it possible someone lived and they didn't realize he was still alive? And he Roy Benavides himself long enough to call for help. It's entirely possible that the locals lied or my fellow contractors did as well, but regardless, I do know this: Platoon 62, not their real call sign by the way, was lost on that date and that time. All 24 were killed in an ambush because they had gone down a road we knew had been mapped out for ambushes. We know most of their equipment was damaged in the ambush, including most comms, and that the official release states there were signs indicated someone tried to save a few of them. Regardless of what happened, whether or not that last call for medevac ever came in, we lost 24 great guys that day just trying to save lives. Task Force Blitz, or TF Blitz, or just Blitz as we called it, was a slowdown task force formed to do as mentioned above, and that was a slowdown any advancement made by the Russians, composed of 150 contractors. It was formed early on, but my squad wasn't attached until I had been in country for about 3 weeks. None of this matters to the story, it just provides some background. It's not uncommon to be given maps that are heavily outdated, or that were completely leading to confusion when we stumbled upon roads and villages that were not marked. Also, it's important to know that GPS was working, but due to bad weather at the time, most of our GPS units were not functioning properly or reliably. Hence, why we relied on maps. While en route to an assignment, the units in the front of our column reported a small cluster of approximately 20 houses and buildings, approximately a half a mile east from the road we're on. Of course, our maps did not show this village. It was decided early on that since we could not confirm previous teams had searched this village, we had to do it again. So my squad of 10 and another of 10 dismounted and approached, joined by 2 armed interpreters. My squad approached from the southwest, the other from the northwest. Maintaining comms while approaching, we identified a gas station, about 15 total homes and apartment buildings. What looked to be government-type building, and 3 buildings I could not possibly identify. So, little by little, we cleared each building. Unfortunately, we did find a few deceased people along the way. Throughout searches, on our end, nothing. As we're wrapping up, the other squad comes out with 2 children and a dog. All 3 appeared to be emaciated, and our medics began treatment while we established a defensive perimeter and waited for an evac platoon to come. The children were picked up. We carry on. Later on, I got to talk to the guys who found the children and dog. And this is where the paranormal begins. While clearing out one of the apartment buildings, the members of the other squad who found them, who I'll call D, interpreter, T, and P. T and P were point, while D covered the rear. All 3 encountered a locked apartment door. T and P confirmed the door handle was locked and the door was firm in a closed position. So they prepared to breach it with a Halligan, when the door simply popped open before they could even get the bar in to the door jamb. Inside they heard what they perceived as a elongated whisper, which D stated was loud enough for him to determine it was something said in Ukrainian. He just couldn't confirm what was exactly said. They proceeded to hold their position until additional contractors came with them. They entered the apartment and searched and found the 2 kids and the dog in the living room closet, covered by several items of thick clothing. A woman was found down the hallway in the bedroom. She had been deceased for several days, if not a week at that point. Her injuries believed a result of a brutal assault. After the fact, before hearing this, it was confirmed that the evac platoon had visited this village about 5 days before, followed 2 days later by another task force. Neither reported finding the children or the woman when cleaning the village. Though it is determined later on members of that evac platoon had committed crimes against women and children, and the time frame of when they were lines up to her death. What stands out is the locked door. They confirmed amongst themselves it was locked, and they were willing to risk any element of surprise both to that apartment everyone that they hadn't cleared or break the door down before it simply popped open. I will say T and I worked together several times after our time in the Ukraine, and he established himself as a great contractor, and he exhibited a great moral character. I know from my time with him, he would not have lied, so I truly believe this happened. As far as knowing truly why that door popped open, I believe that woman in the afterlife waited for her kids to greet them as they crossed over, knowing she could not save them, and she did her best to protect them by locking the door when she saw our boys coming down the hallway. Perhaps she realized they were different. Perhaps she took a chance, hoping they would save her kids regardless. The last I heard, only the dog passed away, so she can rest knowing we saved her kids. So like I stated before, I was a security contractor for 4.5 years and worked both stateside and overseas. Most of our state-tied contracts have us doing what some would describe as military police duties, just on a private level. So we do access control, patrolling, respond to 911 calls on facility grounds, etc. Most of these locations are pretty rural, located in the western half of the United States. The kind of places where you can still see the stars at night. This event happened in 2015 around May and was probably one of the most WTF moments of my career at that point. Myself and another contractor who I mentioned in my previous, then called T, but who we will now refer to as Ty, were manning the entry point to the facility located approximately 4 miles away behind us. In front of us was approximately 2 miles of semi-flat barren ground, ended only by some hills, and behind us was a perimeter fence approximately 9 feet high, topped with barbed wire, with the earth behind that matching the earth in front of us. So on a sunny day or at night, with a bright enough light, you could see easily 1,500 in any direction with little to no concealment to anything larger than the extremely small animal. We sheltered in a small 12-by-8 shack, powered with electricity, and that had running water. The front and side windows could be popped out and upwards, allowing fresh air in, so it's about 200 in the morning. It was sitting at around 60 degrees. Ty and I decided to turn the lights off, both inside and outside of the shack, so we could see the landscape better. It was a moonless night, slightly cloudy, the kind of night perfect for camping, but it was dark, beyond 75 feet. You could not really see anything besides lights off in the extremely far off distance. As we sat there waiting for nothing, liking posts on social media, we both distinctly heard what sounded like a large quadruped animal approaching the shack, which was odd because neither of us had been briefed on anything like this occurring at this specific facility we were guarding. As we both turned around and began to look out the windows, neither of us could see anything, but it got louder, almost like it was getting closer. At this point, you'd expect to see at least an outline of something because it sounded like it was easily within 50 feet of us, but nothing. We both were confused and justifiably concerned. Neither of us were talking. We just listened and communicated with our concerned looks. This is what really messes with my head, and his, to this day. The closer it got, the slower the steps got, and eventually it sounded like they went from being quadruped to biped. I'm talking, it sounded like someone was now within 10 feet of our shack, just casually walking around it. Believing our eyes to be deceiving us, we used the lights on our rifles to begin to illuminate the area, searching our respective sectors, looking for anything. These lights were bright, the beams easily reaching out to 250 feet, not leaving much to the imagination, and yet nothing, not a single thing or person. But yet, once we turned the lights off, the footsteps continued. I would have bet money I was dreaming if I was alone, but I wasn't. I had someone with me confirming what I was experiencing and it to be real. We began to talk amongst ourselves. Night vision? Since we're working at a night post, we're directed to bring our issued night vision goggles with us. So we use those and start scanning. And we literally cannot see a thing, but we can still hear the footsteps. At this point, we're actually so concerned for our safety, we request help. In the meantime, we leave the shack, helmets on, night vision on, and search the immediate area. It's important to note the night vision goggles provided less long-distance vision than the flashlights. We disengaged the ENVGs and went back to flashlights. We searched, kicking over rocks, tapped out feet and divots, seeing if it was a secret hatch. Nothing. It took our backup 20 minutes to arrive in the form of 2 half-asleep supervisors and an ATV. We kind of agreed to make something up, anything reasonable. We heard those footsteps for roughly 15 minutes total. And honestly, I don't know what it could have been. I worked that shack 4 more times before then, and a handful of times after, and nothing similar happened. A shared delusion from late night exhaustion? I don't know. Maybe something else. Tonight's last paranormal experience. I went to a middle school in a smaller town/community. There was honestly absolutely nothing to do besides go to the mini mall or the community rec center, where they would hold these teen dances and play horrible early 2000 music. We ended up going to one of these dances, per se, with a group of friends, and per usual said group of friends got into it with the preps or the jock kids. Fights break out, police are called, everyone scatters. Me and this kid, who I'll just call Nate, end up walking back to his house on the bike path that runs alongside the backside of the rec center. It's nighttime, there's a skate park on one side of us for a while, and then a nature trail and a river on the other. We keep walking along the path, and suddenly Nate stops and says, "Do you see that?" pointing into the pitch blackness as he faced the direction of the nature trail/river. Now this kid was admittedly at times not always too nice to me, and I thought he might be just messing with me at first. I said, "See what? There's nothing there." But at this point, this fool is walking towards whatever he thinks he sees. I see him walk right up to, like he's approaching a person, looks back at me and just crumbles. It was like he fainted or something. So now I'm in the middle of the path completely alone, and there may or may not be some type of presence that just caused my friend to pass out. I'm scared to death at this point, obviously, and this is all becoming too much for my 13-year-old brain to handle. I'm half Hispanic and grew up around a very religious elders, and was always told when I had nightmares, or if I ever felt evil, that I needed to pray. I started walking toward my friend because I didn't want to leave him there, but I also didn't want to be alone. And I began praying. Now, as an adult, I'm not so religious, but at this time, I was doing whatever I thought would help. I went to try to pick my friend up, and he was too heavy, abnormally heavy. I was big for my age, and he was much smaller than me, height and weight-wise, and it was like I was trying to pull a full-grown man up. I know dead weight, but this felt different. He also was ice cold to the touch, despite it being middle of summer. I start to drag him and was praying and focusing on this one particular star as I did so. Not really sure why looking back, but I focused on this star and prayed repeatedly. And my initial thought was to drag him to the hospital, but I swear the more I prayed, the brighter the star got. And it was like he was revived or something. He woke up, annoyed that I was dragging him and scuffing his Iversons, and confused about what had happened. He said that he saw an old man near the tree line when he was walking, and he had motioned for Nate to come towards him. He said once he got close to the old man, this thing put this freaking hand inside of him, which was what apparently made him pass out. I was happy he was okay, and that I wasn't alone, and we ended up walking back to his house like nothing happened. But I believe something did happen to Nate that night. Fast forward a month or so later, and per usual, I'm meeting up with my friends to once ago go to one of these dances because per usual, nothing's going on. I get to Nate's house and the whole feeling is off. Hard to describe, really. I go downstairs to Nate's room and he's not in there, but this sometimes happens, and we're good enough friends that I'd just wait for him to pop up, which he normally does. But this time, there's nothing. I go back upstairs and every single animal this dude had, which is like a cat or two, and a small dog, if I remember right, were all standing hair raised with their backs to his front door, staring up. And I see Nate sitting over this banister he had in his house in this weird way, feet dangling. Didn't see him there when I came in. He was just silent, scribbling and mumbling something. "What's up, man?" I asked him nervously, not really knowing what the heck was going on. Nate looks up at me and looked like he hadn't slept in days, deep circles under his eyes. "I ain't scared." Confused, I asked, "Scared of what, bro?" And he jumps down from the banister with a paper in his hand and gives it to me. The paper has the word death, and then just blank scribbles, like he had been sitting scribbling the same circle in the same place for a long time. Instantly, I got bad vibes and nope energy, and I flat out told him, "Bro, I'm going home." I opened the door, leaving his terrified animals in the corner wondering if they were going to be okay. Long story longer, Nate eventually got into a lot of trouble, dealt with some pretty crippling vices, and though he's still alive now, looks like the shell of his former self, or just not what you would have expected this kid to grow up to be like. I really believe I witnessed a possession happen to him. I haven't told many people this, and I don't think I'll even share every detail though.
And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed this early morning, middle of the night bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Thank you for supporting the channel. It is your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on the children, the pets, the families, and the friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday, or even open their eyes to the truth. And until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth. And God bless.